Good morning.
Good morning.
Another FID day.
It's so much different for me to be here at my house. Wink, wink. Nudge, nudge.
Right. All right. Yeah. Have you done one of these kind of things where you've zoomed in to talk to your students before? Who do we have here this morning? So I see Dominic Gomez and Deanna were here. There are early birds today. Lauren Pritt was early. Mackenzie, William.
Hey, Will's here. That's nice.
That's a new name.
Yes. Will is a new name.
Very nice. Rosa in the house. Who else we got? Please say hi. With a real Slim Shady, please say hi.
Do they even know what that is anymore? Talk about things now and nobody knows them. We're just getting old, Mr. Suter.
I know. Ancient. I feel old. So just a quick roll call. We want to know who's here. So in the chat, if you could say hello real quick. We'll get started here in 1 minute. We're going to try and demystify homeostasis a little bit this morning. Maybe. Grace in the house. I don't think we're playing Blue Kid today. So Grace, you won't be able to steal my Monday. But probably tomorrow will be a little Blue Kid fine. But we are going to play a game. Satali, nice. Daniel, always like seeing you pop in, Daniel, because I don't get to see you on a daily basis being remote, and also it's nice to get these opportunities to connect with some of our remote students. And like I said, we're just waiting a second here, see if we get a few more hellos down in the chat, and if we do, that's great. If we don't, we're going to be moving on. Like I said, Mrs. Smith and I talked this morning. It was kind of like, can we demystify homeostasis? I really believe, I don't know how you feel, Mrs. Smith, that bioenergetics and homeostasis are probably the two hardest units we do all year. And the Keystone results actually show that, right? So the areas on the Keystone test where people do the worst is these two areas. So if we can help you understand this, where you do well on those, then that just makes that Keystone test all the easier in the end. So demystifying homeostasis. I see 10 people watching. I know that number is always a little bit behind. I haven't seen any new names popping up in the thing. What do you think, Ms. Smith? Do we go for it?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Let's go for it. All right. I have 4 pictures I'm going to show you. And I want you to think about these 4 pictures. These are 4 relatively innocuous, like kind of everyday kind of things. And I think if you think about these and apply them, it will make understanding this whole homeostasis thing very easy. We did get a couple more people, Amaya and I guess Taya. Hey. Very nice. All right, so putting the pictures up. Let's do it like this so we can still see us. This is a picture of salt water. It's the best I could do. Come on. How do you get a picture of salt water?
All right, that just reminds me of that really old commercial where it's like, this is your brain.
So why salt water? I'm going to ask a very simple question. In the chat, I want to respond to the response is very simple. So get ready. See who's first. First with a good answer. You have a cold. You have a sore throat. Oh, no. I'm getting and I give you a glass of salt water to gargle with because that will help make your throat feel better. You go to take a taste of it to start gargling, and it's just absolutely ridiculously too salty. You're like, can't do it, Mr. Suter. What do you do to make it less salty? In the chat. How do you make this glass of salt water less salty so you can gargle with it? Dun, dun, dun. This is a tough question. Andrew Nunn in the house.
More names for me.
Add more water. Yes, Rosa. Very nice. Andrew, very nice. You add more water. What this means, and Nicholas, you go just in time. What this means is that you understand a very important principle, that principle of concentration. If something is too concentrated, You can dilute it by adding more water. Right? And so this is one of the fundamental things that if you understand homeostasis is an art, and you already understand it because all I got to do is add water to the salt water and it becomes less salty. Beautiful. Here's my next picture. It's a bottle of perfume. You've probably all seen a bottle of perfume. If I spray perfume right here, pretend we're in the classroom. You're sitting in the back of the classroom. Will you eventually smell that perfume? I mean, if I really load it up, like those old ladies that walk through the mall, well, you probably don't have experience with that, maybe because malls aren't that big of a thing anymore, but you've certainly run into the old ladies that use a lot of perfume.
Okay, or our students with Axe after gym.
Oh, yes. The student that goes to his locker after gym and sprays Axe on himself and bombs the entire hallway. Please, people, that's not a good smell. That really, it's just not. It's not a good. Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of yeses. Yes, you eventually will smell it. So again, you understand this idea of concentration. You understand this idea of diffusion now. Because you understand that if we put a lot of particles in one place, they eventually will spread out into they achieve equilibrium, right? Yes, you will smell that. You will smell that. We have a bottle, if you ask us politely, we have a bottle of perfume, of cologne in the classroom, and we can spray it and show you this. And it is called Canyon. And it does smell like a dirty cowboy. I mean, it's that pretty, and we can demonstrate this for you, and it's brutal. You will have a headache. There's our principle number 2, demystifying this whole homeostasis thing. Number 3. This is a picture from Mapquest of the Susquehanna River. We could zoom in, but trust me on this. This is the Susquehanna River running right down through here, through Harrisburg, into the Chesapeake Bay. And it starts way up here in New York. It actually kind of bends around and goes all the way up into New York. If I took you to Harrisburg and put you in a boat, take you to Harrisburg and put you in a boat. I'm not going to give you any oars, paddles, or motor. It's just you and a boat. And I push you out into the middle of the river. Where will you end up? Will you end up in New York, or will you end up in the Chesapeake Bay? In the chat, where are you going to end up? Seeing some new names. Elijah Bobbitt's in the house. Nicholas Townsend. Love this. Where are you going to end up? I drop you in a boat, no paddle, no oar, no motor, no nothing. It's just you in a boat. Andrew Don says you will reach the Chesapeake. Yes, you will reach the Chesapeake because the river flows towards the Chesapeake. I'm seeing the bay. Thank you, William. Thank you, Lauren. Thank you, Mackenzie. What would you have to do to get to New York if I dropped you in a boat in the middle of the Susquehanna River in Harrisburg? Say you wanted to get to New York. Say you wanted to go up to Scranton. Or Williamsport. Williamsport's not quite New York yet. But
yeah, Williamsport is definitely not New York.
I couldn't hear you, Mrs. Smith.
I said Williamsport is definitely not New York.
Yeah, it's not. It's north. I mean, it's north of Harrisburg, but what would you have to do to get to New York? Nope, you're in a boat, Nicholas. You can't walk in a boat. I mean, you can, but you're not going to get very far.
But you're still going to go to the bay.
Yeah, you're going to be walking back and forth in the boat, but you're going to be in the Chesapeake.
Look at Andrew. He's almost at the word gradient. He's listening to me when I talk.
Go against the grain with power of some sort. Yeah, some power of... I mean, so what do you need in a boat? Power of some sort. I guess so. I'll take that. So, like, if you had some oars, paddle the boat. Yes, a paddle in the boat. If you had a paddle boat, maybe you're using your feet. If you had a motor, some sort of power, you would have to put some sort of power. So this is another one of those very simple principles of homeostasis. The difference between passive and active transport. If you're in a boat and you do nothing, you will flow with the... If you're passive, I do nothing, I'm going to flow with the river. If I'm in a boat and I paddle, I can go against the flow by putting energy into it. Now, another big question here would be, in a cell, what kind of energy would you put into it? Because I just said energy, and in the chat, you're all going to scream back at me, what's the energy of a cell? Mrs. Smith, you're going to love the next picture. There's one more. You're going to love it. Yes, ATP, look at that.
ATP, yes.
ATP. I say energy, ATP. So active transport needs energy. This is me rowing the boat. Passive transport, I don't have to do anything. I just sit there and I float. It's like who is it? Huck Finn in the Mississippi River, right? We just flow down the river, right? Do they know who Huck Finn is?
I hope so, but I don't know.
All right, last picture. This is the good one. I struggled on this one.
I'm a little bit. Oh no. I have one of these in my house currently.
How many of you played with a toy like this when you were a kid? Huckleberry, Finn. Yes, Huckleberry. How many of you played with one of these? Just because I'm interested. Have played with this toy at some point in your life. Somebody's going to be like, I still play with it now. It's my favorite.
I got that for Christmas on my 4th birthday.
Very nice. All right. So we have talked about the difference. I mean, like I said, demystifying homeostasis. Talked about the difference between passive and active transport. Talked about the difference between diffusion, concentration, and dilution. The last thing we want to talk about is a word that sounds like difficult. You know, like we're going to talk about selective permeability, and you go, oh my gosh, what is that? So cells have the ability to allow some things to flow in easily, passive transport. Some things need energy. And so I wanted to get something that would just get you thinking about this idea that some things can get through and some things can't. And this is the best picture I could come up with.
This is great. I never thought about this before, but like this really makes sense because there's all these different protein channels and they fit certain things. Like this is great. I think I'm going to take this out of the bin to sell for my kids' stuff and bring this to school as like for future use in these discussions in class. This is great.
Right. This is it. Like some things will go through certain channels and some things won't. That star will fit through the star channel, but won't go through the heart channel. Right. So selective permeability. Some things can flow through the cell membrane very easily and some things can't. If they can't, they need energy. What is the energy they need? They need ATP. And what is that? That is active transport. If it just flows right through, it's passive. Now, there's 3 words in this unit that are really hard to understand. One of them's easy. The other 2 are a little bit more difficult. So hypertonic, hypotonic, and isotonic. And Mrs. Smith is going to try and demystify those a little bit. And then we're going to see if you're paying attention by playing a little game, see who's getting it. So I'll turn it over to you, Mrs. Smith. Boom.
All right, I got to fix this a little bit. Sorry. Oop, wrong way.
What you doing?
I'm working with a very small space here.
Is this your first time doing a live stream?
No, but it is like I'm trying to do this with my left hand and right hand, and like it hurts. And leave me alone. Everything's broken. All right. So hypertonic, isotonic, and hypotonic. And I put iso in the middle of when I said that to kind of separate and to think about the fact that iso really is that like point of equilibrium. When we talk about isotonic, iso means the same. So iso essentially means equals the same. So when we talk about something being isotonic, we're talking about something that is going to be essentially in equilibrium. Now, when we talk about equilibrium, there is this misconception that that means that things are no longer moving, that you are just sitting there. But things don't like to stay still in the real world. Okay, they like to move. They like to move constantly. What that means is, though, across this cell membrane, so if I'm dealing with this cell membrane, this semi-permeable cell membrane, It just means that for every one of these molecules that moves over, a molecule on this side moves back over here. And so it's constant movement that's happening at the same rate. So if another one moves over, another one moves back. So we're talking about concentrations. We're talking about equal concentrations, equal movements, the same concentration, the same movement. So we might say in a solution that if this over here is inside of the cell, that this is maybe 10% salt. You can also see this as molarity, which might be like 0.1 molar solution, okay, written like that. If this is 10% salt and it's in a solution of water, what's the rest of it? If it's 10% salt, what is the rest of the solution? How much water?
Q15.
Right. Love delays. Great.
Dun, 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 dun.
All right, I'll kind of go on so there's not as delays are coming. 90%.
Thank you, Nicholas.
Okay. So it's 90% water. So if we're in an isotonic solution and we're in equilibrium, then if it's 10% salt solution here, or 10% salt, 90% water here, then over here, it's got to be 10% salt and 90% water. So they're going to be moving back and forth at an equal rate. Okay, the other two are hypertonic and hypotonic. So hyper, when you hear hyper, okay, a lot of times people think about, oh, that's somebody that has more energy. Okay, they're hyper. So if you're hyper, okay, we're talking about something that's more. Hypo equals something that is less. So for hypertonic solutions, that means there's more of, let's say, our salt. And a hypotonic solution, that means there's less salt. So in an arrangement like this, here's a beaker. Okay, and inside the beaker, here's this cell. Okay, and if I say to you, all right, there is 20%, wow, I can't write percent today, 20%, erase, make it bigger. 20% salt, okay, inside. That means there's 80% water, right? And outside of that cell, let's say there is 5% salt, which would mean that that's 95% water, or H2O. So when I'm looking at this, outside has less of the salt. So this outside is what's referred to as a hypotonic solution because there's less salt. Inside of this, it's 20% salt. So this is a hypertonic cell because there's more salt. So when Mr. Suter talked about, you flowing down a river, water always goes from where there's more water to where there's less water. So if you have 5% salt, that means you have 95% water. And inside, you only have 80% water. So which way is the water going to flow? Is the water going to go into the cell, out of the cell, or is it going to move equally? What do you think?
And so while they're thinking about that and writing that, I would just go back to our glass of salt water too, right? Because it's saltier inside the cell. I'm just giving you a hint. It's salt. I love the way Mrs. Smith is explaining it. It's saltier inside the cell. So how does life get to equilibrium? It has to dilute that, just like you did your salt water.
Exactly. Good. Okay. Nicholas, Lauren's going to say into the cell. So it is absolutely, it's going to go into the cell. Now that doesn't mean that there's not like a tiny bit that's coming out. Okay. So I'm drawing like little tiny arrows going out, but overall the net movement is moving into the cell, because where there is more salt, we need to, like Mr. Suter said, dilute it down until it is equal. Once enough water moves in that it's in an isotonic setting where the percentages are now equal because we've diluted it, then it will move freely back and forth. Okay, so good, because Nicholas said until everything is equal, and that's absolutely, it's going to go inward until everything is equal. So when you're looking at these are always comparative terms. So coming up in the homeostasis unit, there's going to be examples like this where you're going to be looking at, it's going to give you a percentage of salt or a percentage of solute that has to be dissolved. A lot of times people forget to put how much water is in there. And so like it always has to add to 100%. So try and help yourself if that makes more sense for it to move in. And I don't want to talk too much more about that today, Mr. Suter. Is that good, or would you like me to add to it?
No, I think it's perfect. And I would just, what I would add is what she did is what I do to it. And if you come to me and you ask, you have a question, you're like, is this hypertonic or hypotonic? The first thing I'm going to start doing is writing down how much water is in the cell, how much water is outside the cell. Because once you figure that out, remember, we always move from areas of high concentration to areas of low concentration. So once you know where the water's higher, it's easy to figure out. Now, the one question maybe we haven't covered is, why doesn't the salt move?
Oh my gosh, that's exactly what I thought about as you're saying. And I'm like, I have a question. Yeah. Why does the salt not move?
Why doesn't? And that goes back to, what does that go back to? That goes back to, hold on. I'm going to add to the stream. That goes back to this.
Yes, exactly.
The salt doesn't move because it can't. So the only way for the salt to move is the cell expends energy to make it move. And so if you have a plant, and I know Mrs. Smith didn't do this worksheet, but some of my students did. If you have a plant where the cells are all dehydrated and the plant's all wilted, if the plant brings salt into its cells, that will encourage water to come in to the cells to fill the cells up with water. So, and one other thing I found another picture that we can add in our demystification is this picture right here, which I know a lot of you are probably familiar. This is the talk right now in the news, right? Go get a shot. What is that needle in the chat? Does anybody know what that needle is called? What's the proper name for that? Anybody know? That this might be stretching. This may be not as commonplace to know what type of needle it is.
As you're talking about that, something cool to kind of look at the hypertonic, hypotonic stuff. If you have a piece of celery at home, okay, and you take a piece of celery and you've probably remembered the experiment where you stuck it into colored liquid and it pulled the color up. Isn't that so cool? Ooh, cut the bottom off, make it fresh, stick it in the bottom, and then it's going to draw color up. If you take a piece of celery and put it in salt water and leave it overnight, the next day, because it's drawn up the salt, that's going to make it, like I said, to maintain homeostasis, put more water into the cells. Your celery will actually get very flimsy because it's got so much water that it's holding. So something cool to like kind of see that salt move or water movement. I don't know. Were you looking for Will's answer?
It's a hypodermic needle. Why is it hypodermic? Because it goes under your skin. It goes below. And Mrs. Smith had said in her picture that hypo was... What term did you use in your picture? Use less.
I mean, I said less, but less is under. It's
lower. Hyper. All right. The phrase I always use with my kids to help them remember, and this phrase absolutely doesn't make any sense, but I always say my hyperactive friend is more outgoing. Yeah. Hyper. Anyway, so we have a little quiz for you. Right here it is. Joinmyquizzes.com. And there's your quiz number. So it's joinmyquizzes.com. Let's see if you were paying attention. Let's see. This is a test of us. Did what we tell you make sense if you were paying attention? It's only a test of us if you were paying attention. Joinmyquizzes.com. The number is 428833. You want to copy and paste it and put it in the chat for you. 448833. Joinmyquizzes.com. Let's get you in the quiz. Let's see who the winner today is. I think there's like 15 questions about this, and I'm hoping that you leave here. On 2 of the worksheets, I mean, we really just covered a lot of like what they need to do the majority of the 2 worksheets that are in this unit, right?
Well, Kenzie spelled her name right. She's not Keeney today. Woo! I'm never going to forget that.
I like Keeney.
I'm waiting for, yesterday in class, Ricardo really told Andrew he was going down. And so I'm wondering if that still stands today.
Oh, what? He was going to kill him in the game. I would not root for one over the other unless one of them was my student, then I would. All right. 13 people in. See if we get 1 or 2 more. We'll give it another second or 2. You can start the game late. Andrew just gets stomped.
You're Keeney forever, Kenzie.
Yeah.
In my heart, you will always be Keeney.
It's amazing how a name like that can just stick with you. Got 13. I'm not getting any more. It says 15 watching, 13 in. Still don't think. I just can't. Mrs. Smith, I mean, I get it. It's a snow. I wish more people would join this. These aren't that painful, I don't think. I actually find them kind of fun.
It's harder when it's just me by myself and I have nobody to talk to. At least I have you. Because they banter off of each other. We add things together. It's not just me. It's not just you. You know. You
get 2 different people's perspectives to learn from. I mean, I would think it makes it easy. All right. Let's see who the winner is today. And I apologize to all Mrs. Smith students for coming in second to mine. Start.
Not cool.
I'll look foolish when they don't win. Dun, 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 dun. All right, let me turn the volume
should
up.
Offer some extra incentive if they can get because does this show their? Oh, this doesn't show the thing anymore? Like what their accuracy is? Did they change that?
Well, because we're not playing it as a class. It's not an assignment.
Oh, okay. I got it.
We're only going to show the top 5 on the leaderboard.
That way, if you're really stinking it up, we can't see it. Is that the deal?
Yeah. So if you're on the leaderboard, you have the satisfaction of knowing you're doing better than everybody else.
Okay, somebody bump Grace off so we can get the top 5 to all be mine.
That's terrible. Grace, don't let that happen.
We're just a little bit competitive. Just a little bit.
Wait, is that 4 of yours in the top?
Yes.
Totally unfair. Elijah, where are you at?
I'm waiting for Ricardo and Will.
Rosa. Elijah. Who else did I have in here? Lamaya.
That's it. Where's Keeney?
Dominic. Where
There's Ricardo.
I think you have more of your students in here today too.
I do. I have a good amount. I think 7 is what I counted that I wrote down because I wrote down Will, Lauren, Kenzie, Taya, Andrew, Nick, and Ricardo.
Deanna. Where's Deanna?
Well, Rosa had to go, so.
Rosa had to go?
Yeah, she had a class.
Couldn't be.
There must be something at 11 because there are quite a few students sometimes that when we go a little bit longer, they have to pop out.
It can't be as important as our class.
Never know.
No, I know. It can't be as important as biology. Come on. So
it might be algebra. I mean, I see so many students doing algebra in my class when they should be doing biology. So I figured then that must be the most important thing, right?
No.
Sarcasm.
Daniel. Where's Daniel? Where is he on the leaderboard here? McKenna.
So tomorrow, 10:30, we'll be here again. And And I don't think it's any students that are in here necessarily that are mine, but I am, you know what I mean? I'm offering anytime during one of the other bio periods, you know, you could pop into a Zoom. I know Mr. Suter, you could give, you know what I mean? If you need him, we're here to help and get you through that material that you might be missing, you know, to get you through that. Spend the time wisely.
I'm not going to sit in a Zoom room all day with nobody in there. But if you send me an email or send me a message, I will happily get in the Zoom with just you. You know, like, I'm wondering if people don't jump in because they're afraid that there's a bunch of people in there. So I'm trying to change that. Just send me an email and we'll get on.
And like, do you know how fast you can get assignments done if it's just like you and me or you and Mr. Suter, like sitting there getting those assignments? Like what could take you 15 minutes could take you 5, you know, or what could take you 50, could take you 15. Lauren at the top.
Well, I just wrote down Elijah, Dominic, Deanna, Grace, Tally, Lamaya, Daniel, and McKenna. Am I missing anybody? I don't think I'm missing it. If I'm missing somebody, put it in the chat and let me know. Oh, Rosa. I missed Rosa. She was here.
Lauren. Woo-hoo. There comes Will.
Will and Grayson are in the top. Will and Grace are in the top?
In the top 5, Will and Grace. Do they know that show, Will and Grace? Probably not.
Probably not. Oh, man. I really talked it up, and it doesn't look like I'm going to beat you this time. Grace in number 2, though. Thank you, Grace. Appreciate that. There's Daniel. Daniel's coming in. Coming over the gill.
I'm just glad Ricardo didn't win. Oh, that's so sad.
Why aren't you in the game? No, but you have to come tomorrow and be in the game tomorrow.
Yes. 10:30 tomorrow. Pretty sure we're going to do a blue get, you know, by popular demand. So.
I don't know. I think she would give people a run for their money, too.
That's the thing with the blue kits. Like the blue kits, it's up down all the time. This really shows us like who knows and who doesn't. So it's nice to do some of these, you know, because like you can be winning and then get hit with it, lose 50% on blue kit, and that's it.
Lauren said that show is really funny. Yeah, blue kit's amazing. Yeah. So you know,
why I'm not telling other people about it. Why we don't tell other people, because I don't want it to get overused.
Well, you won, Mrs. Smith.
Woo!
But I had.
Did you have any doubt? I had no doubts.
I had second and third. Real quick.
Toughest question.
What type of solution is in this cell?
No, I will tell you, because and like when you're looking at this is a tough question because it's asking about the solution outside of the cell, but the way it's worded, and the other is that picture is pretty small.
Right, and then also they see the cell exploding and the water going out, so they think water's going out of the cell, but water. It's the same reason a balloon bursts. The balloon bursts because you're putting so much air into the cell, so the cell bursts because so much water is going into the cell. That makes it hypotonic.
And I described that in my class yesterday. Sorry, I guess I didn't repeat that when I was using the example.
In this one, don't ever the isotonic is the easiest one, right? If you have as much going in as going out, it's definitely iso. That's always the easiest to catch. 100% there. Definitely have water going out of the cell. My hypertonic friend is more outgoing, so that would be hyper.
I use like the example of a sponge. You know what I mean? If you have a sponge that's full of water and you squeeze the sponge and the water leaves, what happens? You know, the sponge like squishes up, it dries out because the water's leaving. So like the cell will shrink up as water leaves.
Water going in, just like the hypodermic needle goes into your skin. I guess maybe. I don't know.
I love that Ricardo's keeping score of how many times he's beat Andrew and how many times Andrew's beat him.
The celery sticks were placed in salt water. What type of solution are they in? They're in salt water. Right. And this is why Mrs. Smith was talking about the cells start getting flimsy, right? Because all the water is leaving the cells. There's no turgor pressure in the water, in the cells.
It's like it becomes like the fancy pencil, the pencil that you
If you put in pure water, water's going to go in because there's more stuff more concentrated inside the cells. We have to dilute those. All right. They don't want us to go through all these probably, but when molecules cannot cross the membranes, it's selectively permeable when molecules can't cross. Selected. That's the picture. Pretty good on that one. Reach equilibrium.
Yeah, not bad. So 10:30 tomorrow with us. If you want to get done anything in homeostasis, just send us a message if you need help on something to get things through. If you're working on bioenergetics still, please finish it. They're in a zeros right now for mid-marking period.
Yeah.
Please, please, please.
Mid-marking period grades tomorrow. With that, I think we're done. I think we're done. The only thing left to say, I think, is just how much we appreciate those of you that come and show an interest in your education, and we love that. You're awesome. We'll leave you with that. You are the most wonderful people in the world.
Hope to see you all tomorrow and more. Bring a friend.
Bring a friend. Later.